Ron, come on, Umberto. So I just want to read this one thing.
It probably won't last for very long because I get very
Have you
hot.
started this
So
video?
does Jamie.
Yeah.
No.
All right, I'm just going to read this one thing because I
agree
think
with
it's
you that
really important, and I think it's on page 42. Ron Stover, where is he? This is for you.
Ron Stover, there's a special for you.
I love this. And if we could do this, it's on Think Only of Your Goal, page 42. The quick and effective way to eliminate anything you don't want is to disregard it and turn your attention interest to only what is directly opposite. So if you want more abundance in your life, you can't keep focusing on lack and
I already
expect
turned it
more
down.
abundance to be and it's discipline. It's a discipline, and it's like I said before, you're rewiring your brain basically from a scientific standpoint. So the quick and effective way to eliminate anything you don't want, Ron Stover, is to
Stover.
disregard it and turn your attention interest to what you directly to what is directly opposite. So if you keep saying my finances are all over the place, I can't get my act together. What do you
And
expect
what does the
to
law
have? What does the
say?
law say? It's going to show. It's going to show
Yes, you cannot get your act together, and I will support that 100%.
So yeah. So
You know.
we're going to talk. We talked more about affirmations, I think, next week. But it's like you have to affirm the opposite and forget about the other. And it's not.
No, it
It's
takes
not
discipline.
easy. It takes
Yeah.
discipline. But if something's not showing up in your life, it's because you're affirming the opposite. Is basically what. Or there's some gift in it that you need to clear.
Right.
And
And the most important thing is the word discipline, because we pay a big price when we go down the road of lack. We pay a huge price, even though it seems very logical. Something's happening in your life, and it's very logical. But the discipline isn't turning around. A discipline is getting what I was just saying, getting really tough with yourself and saying, no, I said that I am perfect health no matter what. And then you bang your knee, and then you fall down, and you're going like that. And I said, I guess I didn't make myself clear. I guess I'm not clear, because I know that perfect health is mine, and I will have that. I always say I'm not getting mad, but I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. My word is my word, and it's backed by an entire universal law. So, yes, where did Bruce go?
so somebody's
Was Bruce
missing.
in the bathroom with you, Umberto?
Did we lose Bruce?
Oh, okay.
Who's he talking to?
They weren't eavesdropping.
All right. All right. No, don't. He'll come.
Just go stand next to him.
Okay, so the principles that we're talking about, the law is really invisible. I mean, the principles are invisible, but we see their effects everywhere. So the principle is there whether we use it or not. It's there whether we use it. Like the principle of mathematics is there whether we use it or not. It's still there. It's invisible, and if we say we know that 2 + 2 equals 4, but if we say 2 + 2 equals 6, then we have misused the principle. So it's the same thing with spiritual laws, right? We can know that we are correctly using a spiritual principle in just the same way we know we are using the laws of mathematics correctly, by the results. The whole point of this class is to practice this and look at your results and see yourself expanding and keep knowing that one of my affirmations for abundance is that my finances are always secure. So if I'm looking at my checkbook and it's not looking the way I want it to look, I just keep affirming that. Right. And then I go in and I just keep affirming it, and I keep affirming it, and it shifts.
And one little thing about affirming, and this is, and I think we talked about it on Sunday, affirming isn't like, oh my God, I'm doing it again. I can't believe this. I was like so disciplined last week, and now my whole life sucks. I can't believe I'm doing this. And then you start beating yourself up and saying, oh my gosh, I thought I was manifesting, but now loser. I mean, people talk to themselves. Like I said on Sunday, people could be arrested for the way they talk to themselves. There you go.
So I always find it interesting that what's below the surface
Right.
is where
Like
it's
the
all
iceberg,
happening.
yeah,
This
the
is where
iceberg.
it's all happening, right? And they even say, like, in the subconscious, it's all happening in the subconscious, and that's what's running our lives is our subconscious, and that's what we're doing here is we're working on directing our subconscious the way we want to direct it, so that we can get rid of all the crap that's in there that we don't want anymore and replace it with the stuff that we do want. It's like pouring a beautiful glass of water into a muddy glass of water and keep pouring it in and keep pouring it in until it's crystal clear and you're thinking exactly the way you want to think, and you're not being controlled by race consciousness or what's happening out there or what somebody told you. You have all the answers. And so, yeah, that's what this whole teaching is about. You have all the answers.
One aha that came this week as a result of the book you gave me, and then the other book I got guided to buy in the bookstore, which you guys are doing, practicing the presence. There's one little step got guided to put in there that's just making a huge difference for me, and that it's like I wanted to end the inner conflict. Do you know what I mean? Where I would notice, I'd have an ideal principle, and I notice what I was actually doing, and as you're saying, Patrick, the talk, and so I got, all right, well, here's a thought coming through me, and that thought is not what I want to live. And I want to put my attention quickly on what I do want, but before I do that, the step I'm doing now is I just softly take it in my heart and go, I love you. I love you. And then I let it go and put my attention somewhere else, and I'm noticing things are just kind of falling away because that step helps. And
That's really good because, yeah, you don't want to hate something or resist it. You want to embrace it, find out what it's trying to tell you, and then say, you know what, this doesn't really serve me anymore, and I'm letting it go. I'm just letting it go. And then you just keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. And the more you like submerge yourself in like intelligent reading and stuff that empowers you, the easier it gets because you start to change your thinking. I always say I don't think the same way I used to. I just don't. What is that noise? Sounds like somebody's beeper is going off. You hear it? It's very high pitched. Oh, okay. Got it.
I have my suspicions.
Okay,
won't.
so, and then it just gives you an example. Invisible principle equals visible result. So you can't see the principle behind the result. You only see the result. Look at nature from the stars to a plant life to the human life. These are visible results of an invisible cause. What can you tell about the cause by studying the visible effect? And one of the exercises it gave was to go out and look at stuff and contemplate it and say, what does this star tell me about what's behind it? And meditate on that, or looking at a beautiful flower, or looking at the ocean, or whatever. There's an invisible principle behind everything. I now know about the thing itself by studying its creation. So everything is coming from cause. We use the word cause so that's where the change takes place, is in cause. It doesn't take place in the effect. That's why, I mean, even Dr. Joe says that. Dr. Joe Dispenza says, you know, you can change matter with that matter sometimes, or by attacking the matter, you can, you know, or trying to fix the matter. You can change it, but it's either going to take a really long time or it's not going to be permanent if you don't get back to what's behind the matter, like what caused it. Like sometimes people, they don't get behind what caused the situation to begin with. Like, that's why sometimes people win the lottery and they win all this money and then it disappears, right? Or they lose it because they didn't have the consciousness of having that amount of money. And so they couldn't even keep it. Does this make sense?
But not because they did anything wrong.
No.
It's because
No,
I mean,
please, it's not that.
statistically they don't win. I mean, they lose the money because they never had. It was just like I was just talking about. My consciousness grew. That I would look at something, I didn't go, when I was a kid, I hardly had anything. That's why I don't have anything now. And I'm just, you know, and you just carry that all through your life. Instead of going, now I'm going, $1 million ain't that much, is it? I mean, you only buy a house. So you're changing consciousness so that when I do have $1 million or $2 million or 10, then it will be natural. It's a natural thing for me because I it's not like I mean most of the people when I mean I know because I was in the same trailer park with them. They were like they would literally $20,000. Holy mackerel! We're gonna live forever. $20,000 and because the consciousness is sometimes it's like $10 is a lot. Speaking of which, I remember $10. My aunt, I always love this story. My aunt sent, always when I was a little kid, always sent like cash in an envelope for your birthday. So Rita and I were going through one of our leaner times in our life, and she
We
sent.
had a lot of those.
She sent $10, and and still the same kid card that she sent, and she said, I really want to apologize. When I saw her, she said, I always feel bad. I mean, you're a grown man, and I'm sending you like $10 in the mail. That $10 is what we got to the bank so that because we were that low in our bank account. That $10 was the exact perfect thing for that day. And I just went, wow. And to be humble enough to understand that and to say, what a gift. That's when I always wanted to tell her before she passed away. I said, you do not know how $10 saved this man that you were embarrassed to send him that money. Now, millions in my account. Millions! And she's probably going, I wish I was still alive for that million. Okay, what do we got going?
Okay, so I think you read this in the reading about the attributes of God. I added some to it. I mean, I'm sure you could add some to it too. And I loved what it said about that these are the attributes that are yours also. These are the attributes of you, your wholeness and wisdom and joy and intelligence and all of this harmony. And I love the idea of like working with it. Like if you feel like there's one of these that you want to increase in your life, like to actually work with it and understand that it's already your attribute. You don't have to go get it. You just have to become more conscious of it, basically. And any thoughts on this idea? Anything?
It's encouraging. Even the negative things seem pretty encouraging because when you don't have these things going on, it's like the law is still working. So it's something you can rely on. And you say, I'm having these thoughts. Oh, that's why things are, kind of screwed up. Oh, I'm having these thoughts. And, then there's possibility. And I can feel some, like expansion. And it seems like the only thing is it's like a discipline of continuing to pour in what you really want instead of what you don't want. So then when you look at somebody like what's happening in the country now, in some ways the destruction of a country is really, well, actually there's something really good about this. And maybe the elements that are creating the destruction are really like the elemental forces of spirit that are coming in to transform. Because, I was just reflecting, like Trump was like this Norman Vincent Peale guy. He was like us on steroids, So it's just the law. The law is working. I feel encouraged by it.
I think there's an important thing to say too is
Thank
that
you.
this is probably the calmest, if you've gone through the last 7 months with me, most calmest I have ever felt during all of it, because I was saying the other day, I'm very clear of my intuition right now. And what I know is that if there's a big mess, then I saw it as when you're not feeling well. If you ever haven't felt well, and you think, oh God, I'm so sick to my stomach. And what makes you feel better? When you throw up. And sometimes that's what that mess is. And so nothing's going to shake me now, because I landed in a place that said, wow, not, what I've done for 7 months, but in a thing that says, it either is or it isn't. It either is working for me or it's not. So I'm giving up my loopholes. That's what's changed in me. That says, well, when I see the good and when I see that, then everything. I'm going, well, maybe it's just, we're just globally regurgitating so that we can free ourselves and be well. Because that's what happens when you get sick and you let it all go. Then all of a sudden you go, oh, I feel so much better now, right?
I had an aha in my second near-death experience. I saw God as this infinite fountain. I actually saw that realm where God was an infinite fountain, a fulgent fountain that was expressing as math, science, color, beauty, all at the same time. It was just like. And in the last week, the book that Rita encouraged me to get, when I was a teenager, I spent a summer on a ranch in Wyoming. And it was the biggest working ranch in Wyoming. And they could, for that big an area, they couldn't afford to run pipe. So what they would do, and maybe you guys have seen it before, is they'd have these earthen mounds that would separate an irrigation ditch that had a lot of water in it. So when you wanted to water a row, what you would do is you would take this pipe, and it was just a normal pipe. It was a straight and then a C, and then it was straight. But you'd stand there in the mud on either side of the thing, and you'd go like this to create a vacuum, and the water would run from where there's a lot of water in the ditch down the row of plants. And the aha that I got from this whole thing is that, oh my gosh, Science of Mind's been saying it, God's omnipresent. That fountain that I saw is real. It's all around me, but I have to connect my pipe to it. Right? And the minute I connect my pipe in it, you'd always hear this whoosh because the water was wanting to flow somewhere. There'd be this whoosh, right? And so the aha that I was getting with your attributes of God, because I've been playing with it this week, is that if I'm in an experience of not that, if I breathe and center myself and I put my attention on one of these things and I just spend some time putting my conscious awareness on that thing, I'm blown away. But if that very thing isn't flowing and it's not complicated and it doesn't take long. Anyway.
That's great.
You know,
Yeah.
just putting our awareness on it.
So, I mean, think about the power of these attributes. Like, if you really, really focused on that your life, that there's no such thing as death. There's only life. Or, that there's wholeness. That's God is wholeness. There's nothing that could bring disease because it's wholeness. So even if there was a disease, meditating on wholeness of God within you as you would create a healing. It would have to. So, yeah. Somebody was going to say something, Amber.
The only thing I was going to say was all of that is truth. And one word that people haven't talked about is delay, because timing. Now, we all have experienced instant manifestation. We want something immediately, something happens and it's right there. And yet sometimes there's a little bit of a delay. And so what I always tell, an affirmation that I learned years ago was God's delay is not God's denial. And it was a wonderful affirmation because it allowed me to keep the faith of that abundance will come. And eventually it did. And that it didn't happen all the time, but it allowed me to keep the faith. It wasn't about my timing, although sometimes it just boom, and you go, whoa, but keeping it that there's a reason, even if I don't understand it, it's on its way.
Yeah, no.
Maybe years later.
That's really great because there's a process of healing and healing. I can't remember which it is, but the process is our realization. And I mean, if some of the things that I had wanted to have happen in my life happened like 20 years ago, I wouldn't have been ready for them even, right? So the delay was me getting ready for whatever it is, So, yeah.
Well, and that there's also a theory that says that it's already occurred, and we're catching up with it.
Well, that's the whole thing. Everything is. You got to go by the
already
idea
happened.
that you don't got to go by
And
anything.
and so one thing I
Wait,
do want to
can
throw
I just
in,
say one
but-
thing? Yeah,
sure.
because you just said something, it triggered something in me. It's just that
I push your button.
no, that it is already happening, and we're just catching up with it. Isn't that what you just
Yeah,
said?
mhm.
Right. And so I just want to go back to the idea that we're not making it happen. It's already
Right.
happened, and we're just walking into it, like we're realizing it. We're opening up to it, just like I said about the electricity before. It was always here. We just didn't know how to use it. So I think that's what's happening now. So that's the delay.
And one thing also about timing and everything. And everything being here right now. All you have to do is travel to a different location with or a different culture, and you see everything. You see peasants that are still carrying baskets on their head. It's still going on right now. You see wealthy buildings that are so far ahead of anything we've ever dreamed of. It's all happening now. So yes, it is, and sometimes we have to have that time period to catch up to it. But yet at the same time, we have to have the faith that we're on our way to receive it.
Thank you,
That's
Amber.
what I wanted to piggyback on, because it can be a very catch-22. It can be very, very, in this science, in this teaching, it has already occurred. Okay, so let's just take that premise and call it a day with that. But I love that because there is a process. But what happens is sometimes we get caught in that, well, I guess it's not here, so I guess that was the answer to my prayer. And people do that because it doesn't show up right when the manifestation. So the key to what Amber's talking about is once you have set the intention and you have set it in motion, that's what we do in. So once you set it in motion, then the important thing is to cultivate it, to continue to nurture it, to continue to imagine it, to continue to feel it, to see it, to become one with it. Because in this philosophy, we become the very thing we desire. And what that means is you become, you cannot be from a place of wealth if you're living from a place of poverty. That's what I meant about being young. I felt like I was a rich prince, but I didn't live in a place that was rich. But my consciousness was taught. My mother taught me that I said, wow, cheese on a Ritz, with the little, when you had this can and you could go like, we were like. Yeah, that's what we're doing. Woo! But that's the point. But a lot of people give up very soon and say, oh, I guess it's not going to work. Or life's a process. Well, it can be, but also life is instantaneous. So, we did that. Did you go forward?
Oh, I'm going backwards.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk love and law, and we've been talking about it all night. We have this wonderful thing that one of the quotes, I guess it's here, but there is no love without law and no law without love. They are not separate entities, but rather two aspects of the one working as one. So once again, that law, once we can get law, really understand it and embody it, because I think there's a part of us that knows love, and we have this idea, this concept that feeling of love. And what is a feeling of love? I mean, can't even describe it, can you really? Oneness. Because when you feel at one with love, then everything else seems to unfold perfectly. So the law, though, love points the way, initiates, selects, chooses, just what we're talking about. I desire to experience. I hardly want to say anymore, I want this. I just say, I want to experience this. Because it's I want to experience wealth. I want to experience peace of mind. Oh. When that is the intention that is set forth, is that I want peace of mind right now. Then what do? You move from that place of peace. And then you go, but it's all chaotic. Well, it won't be for long. Because I'm walking in with peace. So plant plants thought into its own being, which is oneness again, not planted into something else, an aspect that we call law, the creative medium. And so everything, and it's going to be so simple that we try to complicate it, but it goes to, that's how simple the creative medium is. This is seed, soil, and plant. Every test that's ever taken, they'll say, what is the creative medium? Can describe the creative process? And everybody wants to, I mean, there are people that could fail this because they don't want to just do that. Because they want to make it complicated. They want to say, well, first it's the universal presence moving through the cosmos, and you're going, it's an idea. And we plant it in this creative medium, the soil, that says it must grow. But if you walk away from it, you don't nurture it, what we were talking about then, you get that seed and you say, this is the seed. And as Rita was saying, if you plant a tomato, you get a tomato. And here's the thing, you can get those little packet seeds. You could dump out the tomato and sneak in carrot seeds in there, and it'll say tomato. But when you plant the seeds, it's going to be it can't be fooled. That's the other thing about the law. It cannot be tricked. You cannot lie. You cannot say, I have all the confidence in the world and nothing can stop me. If I wasn't such a loser, I would be. The law goes, negates. That's why once you embrace the law of your being, it's very simple. We're using it all the time. I think Umberto was talking. We're using it all the time anyway. You might as well use it in your favor, right?
Yeah, so this amber is the same as saying the law, the soil. Right?
That's the law.
So we don't really know how that works in there. We just know that when we plant the seed, the other side comes out a plant, right?
And how do you cultivate? How do you nurture the seed? How do you nurture it? Water it. And it's go, well, that's
give it nutrients, yeah.
Nutrients. And nutrients are wonderful thoughts about it. That's how we do it. Yeah, you can eat all the right foods and all this stuff, and that's great, and it will nourish the body, but what you're putting into it, that's why our words are so important. That's why our thoughts are so important. And we're talking about the ones that are by ourselves in the car, not the ones that we display. Not the ones that we display. And I have good thoughts in the car as well. I'm just saying.
And tell them that's things. Like sometimes we go this and we bring it up there.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have the diagram, but
I know, but I'm going to get it for you because it's really cool. It's kind of like a continuous circle. What happens is if you keep planting the same thing, remember they say it's a pattern, you've programmed, that's because you're dropping the same seed in and you go, I don't understand why things keep staying the same. It's because you keep dropping the same seed in instead of pulling up the seed and going, oh, I don't want to plant that anymore. It's not working. Or the other thing too, back to Amber's and her illustration, it's like you plant the seed and you water it. And then you go, why isn't it growing? Grow. And then you see a little bit and you go, that's as fast as we're going? And it has a little tiny thing. Because within the seed was everything we ever needed. It's already contained in the seed. Everything that you see out here, and this Sunday we're doing Something from Nothing. Is our title of our talk. And it's perfect on this. Go ahead.
Should I go? Okay. So
same thing, seed. Even though when I took my ministerial, I
take one of each and pass it on.
wanted to be different, of course, and almost probably flunked it because I used pregnancy, which is very true. Seed is planted, and here we are. But I'm just like thinking, just use the damn soil in the seed. It's really easy. Don't try to do. So spirit, soul, and body. So soul. The reason that soul is confusing to a lot of people, I don't know if you think that, but I remember like my soul. I felt my soul. It was very. etheric and has the very, it's a different kind of essence. But our soul is the law
In the creative medium.
and the creative. This is called the creative
Subconscious,
process.
subjective is what we consider the soul.
Right. So anytime that you see the body, even right now as we're all together, we planted this. If you look around right now, this was nothing at one time. No thing, as Joe Dispenza. This was not. If you look around at everybody, this is something from nothing. Look where we are. Look at us. And that's why I love the idea that when this medium is expressing itself, that's why it's so individual. Why we have the separate fingerprints. Because just in case we forgot that we're the individualized expression, can never be, it was so clear, right? It said, you are individualized, and I have this incredible idea. I don't use it as much anymore, but I would say the spirit is this creative process. I have this great idea, Amber. And there's Amber. And you're like, wow. That's how special and important we all are. Not because God is sitting up there going, you're really special. No, it said not only they're separate, it said, I am you. I'm gonna birth myself as you. And nobody can ever be you. Ever, ever, ever. That's how powerful the creative process is. I get rather excited.
Tell them about the V.
What do you think the V is for? Anybody know?
It is victory.
Yes.
Yeah, spirit moving into form.
It's the creative process, the creative medium just diving in.
We also call it involution and evolution. Like involution is spirit contemplating upon itself, and evolution is it moving through law into form. So if anybody ever asks you what's involution, evolution.
If you ever want to get real smarty pants, just go, yes, I'm studying
It's
involution, evolution.
Yeah. So
Seed in the soil, basically.
So if these forces are so strong, it's like the creative forces of the universe.
If these creative forces are so strong.
Yeah, then
I bet.
then it must be some kind of very strong countervailing forces that produce, resistance or
it's the same force.
One force.
There's
Yeah.
only one force,
yeah.
and it's how it's being used. And so,
It's individual.
and then we talked about like the collective, we call it race consciousness, but collective consciousness. Whatever the prevalent thing is the one that's going to manifest. So we're all creating individually, but we're also creating collectively. So it's not another force. Get that straight, because it's one force, and it's the way we use it.
Uh-huh.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it just means that what you're trying to say is, are you trying to say like counter the force, like
Yeah, like counterfaxes to things that you want to do, because I'm starting to become very aware of any counterfaxes, like messages from past, earlier life and things that run counter to the direction.
Well,
in which I'm
okay.
moving.
Well, that's good that you mentioned that, because that's all in here. All those messages that you got in the past are all in this in your subconscious, and that's why
Contains everything that has ever been.
One of the things we do in this teaching is we drag them all up and look at them, and we decide which ones we want and which ones we don't, and we dismiss them. And that's what we do with spiritual mind treatment, basically. Does that make sense? It doesn't always easy, because they're ingrained in there. Like, I go to myself, I'm 67. For 67 years, I've been thinking this way. And now all of a sudden I find out about the science, mind, and spirit. And now I'm going to change all those beliefs that were within me, that were taught to me by my parents and the culture that I grew up in and everything. Well, it doesn't happen that quickly. It could happen that quickly. It could be instantaneous, or it could be that you have to do some digging, and then you finally have to make a decision that you don't want to do it anymore. And then you have to keep affirming the opposite. Does that make sense? Like I was brought up, I don't feel this way anymore, but I was brought up thinking I was stupid. So, yeah. So, because that's what I was always told. So I was going through life projecting that out into the world and inviting back experiences to let me know that that was
To
true.
prove it.
People to let me know,
Prove it.
teachers to prove it, because that's what we do. So when I finally go in there and say, you know what, I'm not stupid, and I don't want to go through my life stupid. I'm a very intelligent woman, blah, blah, blah. And I began slowly to shift it, and I did. And now I don't think that way anymore. And my experiences don't show me that anymore either, because your experiences are going to show you whatever is your prevalent belief. It's just law.
And just on that same note, this contains everything that has ever occurred in time and space, not just
Right.
your,
Not just yours.
It's everything is in there. But one thing that I think is sometimes gets mistaken, we're not in here to, I know that there's thought form removals and there's a lot of different things. We're not here to actually take away, and we'll never think of that again, to take away history, to take away. We're here to have the power to consciously think, to consciously direct, so that when it, because I sit with people sometimes and I know that they're wanting to, if I can just get rid of what my mother said, I'll be okay. Right? If I can just get rid of my dad who did all that stuff to me, I'm to use myself. And I went, oh my God, but that's not what I want to do. I want to have it in my subjective and choose another direction based on, okay, that was the past, that was history. What do you want now?
That's good, Patrick, that you said that, because it doesn't really go away.
No.
It just gets weaker.
Because
until the
it
prevalent thought becomes the one you want to think.
It has no
right?
power because you've mastered it. You've mastered it so that when you're going, why am I thinking about that? I thought that was gone. It comes up and you, oh, hello. Oh my goodness. I don't think like that anymore. I'm sorry. Oh, so now I'm back to what it is that I'm wanting to become. So I want us to sometimes get that out, because I do know a lot of times they're thinking, once I get this, that'll never be a part. No, that's a part of, just a part of it. So anyway, Rita,
Yeah. 'cause
I
we're
think you're on
almost
the
at
why.
Oh,
Is
yeah,
that pretty clear? I would imagine.
I don't know if I got this from somewhere else or whether this was
can't
in your
tell you
reading.
why.
No, it wasn't in your reading, I don't think. Was it the why thing? This is really interesting, because a lot of people get trapped in the why. Like, why does the law of cause and effect work? Why is there a law of cause and effect? Like, and people, or why is that, or why is that? And what he's trying to say is that people get caught in the question why. He says it's an invalid question. I don't know if you agree with this or not, but he said no one really knows why a principle works. Like, in other words, we don't know why gravity works. We just know it works. We know how it works. We know what it is, but we don't really know why. And why would we care? Why would we need to know why? Gravity works the way it works. It is not known why. It is simply known how. And so he goes, we can't waste time trying to figure out why, or we can learn to use the principles by the how and what of them. So you can spend a lot of time trying to figure out why, like the universe is the way it is, instead of just saying, you know what, this is the way it is. I'm going to learn how to use it, and I'm going to learn how to prove it in my life. I'm going to learn how the law works, and I'm going to learn what it is, and now I'm going to practice it, and I'm going to use it, and I'm going to see what shows up for me. Does that make sense?
Well, and it
So-
doesn't mean you don't question, because but I think what she's saying too is very powerful. Is this we call it arguing for your limitations, and what I mean by that, instead of asking like Amber did, she go, I don't really get the law thing. Is very different than, I really don't resonate to the law, and it really blocks me, and I can't really get in bed with that. And I said, well, why don't you just change? I don't like that because it turns me off. And I'm thinking, well, why don't we find how, because the law is going to work whether or not it turns you on or off anyway. It's going to work because we experience it daily. This morning you woke up, I'm awake. You started to think and you started to process, and everything started to unfold in your day. And so I think that what it is sometimes we can keep why. It would be like saying, is it really the Big Bang that got me here, or was there something before? One of the most important thing is that
Why was there a Big
we're
Bang?
here.
Like,
Why was there a Big Bang?
maybe there wasn't. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, it's fun for, It's fun to kind of sit around like the disciples and kind of shoot the breeze about why all of this happened. But what really is important is that I am here. You're here. And so we know that something's working. We know there's some law working.
But
Ooh, who's breathing me right now? I know that I'm standing here without strings. on
also,
me.
we don't want to take things on blind faith. That's why we want to prove
Exactly.
them. Otherwise,
Exactly.
if we learn how it works and we use it, then we're not blindly believing in it. We're just saying it works because I know I used it, I tried it, it worked. And so, and it continues to work. We have that thing from Michelle LeMay, this shit really works. It does. It works if we work it. So the universe is impersonal. Begin to look at the hows and whats and that's of life and release the whys. Practice letting that be okay. So I think he's just saying, just figure out how it works and what it does, and don't argue for your limitations, and just practice it, and let it be that's okay, that you don't have to know why everything is. I mean, does that work for you, not knowing why? Like, sometimes, haven't you ever gotten trapped in that or not? Am I just spinning my wheels here? Like why something is, yeah.
I haven't gotten so much into the why, but in that particular, the universe is impersonal. I've always felt it was very personal.
Well, you're right. It is.
And so, just like gravity, we know is a law, for example, and then you go out into outer space and you see these astronauts jumping up and down,
Right.
trying to keep themselves, the gravity no longer exists. So that's a good example of everything existing at one time. But the universe is impersonal, I agree, and yet I find it very personal.
Which is the key.
Because it's both personal and
Yes.
personal. The personal part of it is spirit, the love, the love part of it.
That personal connection to
your
the universal flow.
consciousness. That's the personal part. Your connection to spirit. The impersonal part is the law. That's probably I picked that picture, and I'm seeing it was kind of a trap because the universe is impersonal and personal. So does that, because if the law was personal, we'd be in big trouble. Because
trouble.
it would be able to say, oh, you can have that, but you can't have that. It's like it's like when we pray to God. When I used to pray to God, and God answers some prayers, but God doesn't answer other prayers. No, God answers all prayers. In our science, it answers all prayers in relation to the degree of, in relation to the way the person is praying. So the consciousness that's praying answers the prayer. Does that make sense? So it's impersonal, and we'd be grateful that it's impersonal, because if it wasn't impersonal, one quick one and one quick one.
Yeah. So I think nobody, from what I can perceive, nobody has a problem with the law. I think we get that there's a power that we could use and we could tap into it. Where the question comes up and why we're all here, I think, is because we want to use it in a way that actually works.
Right.
So that, these counter messages or other things that happen from the past or whatever can be efficiently ushered out in favor of the ones that we choose. So that's and if somebody, like all of us might say, okay, I want more success in this, or I don't know why the finances aren't working. Well, okay, so how then to do that little trick of the, pouring the clear water into the cup? Is it, only are the affirmations? Is it, what I've been using is saying, okay, God, that's a thought that I don't want. Take care of it, and replace it with something that will add energy to what I want.
And yeah, well, what will change that is not to think of what I don't want. It's to turn it immediately saying, I'm in the don't want, but what do I want? So if I was always on your shoulder through your life, how the angel and the devil, but if I was sitting there going, if you had that thought and you go, God, I'd say, what do you want? Because that's what the law is saying. What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? And that's why it's so great that it's impersonal, as we were talking, because It doesn't care because it's just going to say yes. So it follows you, but it doesn't say, I don't go, oh, I really want to feel and experience wealth. They said, well, you could have if you had been nicer to the person who pushed your buttons. So then I would have allowed that to be. It isn't, it just says, yes, I'm stupid. Yes, you are. I love you. Love is back in it all. I love you. I love you. Yes, yes. I'm going to give everything you can to show you how stupid you are. Because I am anything after I am.
Well, you know, one of the ahas that came through meditation for me is that the new earth births, when too difficult to the ego, principles are living in harmony and married. And one is sovereign free will, and the other is full interconnection or oneness. And the aha that came last week about law, which shifted something for me, is that law ensures free will. Law allows the prodigal son to have to choose God consciousness or the world of effects. And that's my bottom line from the last week, is in every moment, I'm either allowing my ego to put my conscious attention in the world of effects, or I have my awareness here and the effects do what they do.
It's exciting to be that powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, so what I want to encourage you to do is to just work it.
Yep.
Don't be so interested in the results. Just practice. Practice and enjoy the time that you're spending with it and get excited about it. And I can guarantee you that it does work, because I know it does, because I experienced it and I proved it, and it does work, and I'm still improving it, and I'm still growing, and I'm still expanding, and so are you. Everybody is already doing it. So it's just a matter of like discovering it, reading about it, getting excited about it, then applying it and being like a little scientist and applying it, and then then like Amber said, it's not always instantaneous. There is a delay sometimes, because you still have to work with your consciousness, you know? So, and you don't get what you want, you get what you become. When you become, does that make sense? You get when you are affluent in your consciousness, then you begin to experience affluence, right? So
It's like
I can tell that some people are getting tired.
It's like a colleague of ours used to say, and really practice this. When life isn't really happening, like something will happen during the day, just for a moment, stop and just go, damn, I am so powerful. Look what I manifested. And you're going, but that's crap. Exactly. That's how powerful I am. I can mess things up the same way that I can make everything completely burst with love and peace of mind. But what happens is we spend a lot of time on why did I do that and what if I could have done. And I thought I was over that emotion, but here I am again, pushing buttons, instead of just going, stop and say, wow, I am a powerful manifester. I'm a master. So much that if my thoughts go wild, like the frat party I talked about, they go wild. And they start being destructive. I go, do you really want to use your power that way? Do you? Because you can. Because as Adora was saying, it's free will. So that's how we know the law works. Go for it. And then you go, you know what? I'm kind of tired of that hangover. I think I'll do something different.
All right, so your assignment is experience the second principle, the one we gave you tonight, and then the short reading and how to change your life, and choose a prayer again, and practice the how you talk to yourself exercise. That'll be a good one for all of you.
I love that.
All right, I promise to send you a all to you, Beth. Okay, so
Beth.
So all you're supposed
It's
to
10
do,
o'clock in Beth's room.
how you talk to yourself is like really important. All right. So kind of look at this and we can share ahas next week. We'll talk about it, but you know, it's still personal. You never have to share what you don't want to share. So, but we all learn from each other too, I think. So yeah. So that's part.
And so on
of you for to work on.
how do you talk to yourself? I was saying the other day, about talking to yourself in a kind of a belittling way. But if we would just talking to myself as well, if we could just take a moment to talk to ourselves. If a little kid came up to you and said, I feel awful, I'm never going to be anything, and this is, everybody hates me, and everybody, which I'm sure that if we've all heard, not from them, but from ourselves, you would never say, get over it, how could you think like that? You would say, listen, you are so powerful that anything you set your mind to, you can do, anything. And just to assure that, I'm here for you. I'm here for you. How powerful that is to talk to yourself like that. To say, I've made some interesting choices. But it's okay. That's why they call it the past. What are we going to do today? How are we going to use this incredible power today? Ooh, just like, remember in Fantasia? Fantasia was great. It was like trying to learn is power. Fantasia the movie, that's what everybody was stoned on. But Mickey Mouse, and he's learning how to be this, manifesting these things, and things are knocked over because he's not knowing how to use the power, and he's boom, boom, boom. But that's what we're doing. We're learning till the day that you walk in and you say, oh, I don't even have to wave that. Oh, I'm going to walk from it. So there. So let's just take a moment in this wonderful, wonderful sea of receptivity that each and every one of us has been swimming in this entire night. And all the thoughts that have come up, all the ideas, all the stimulation of energy, all the stimulation of spirit, God moving through and as me, moving through and as each and every one of us. Tonight, something incredible has occurred. That understanding, that claiming that there is a power for good in the universe, and it lives through and as each and every one of us. It is inherited. Each and every one of us is royalty of this power that has been given the kingship, the queenship of the universe to use in any moment that we choose. This is good news. This is powerful. This is powerful to remember who and what each and every one of us is in every moment. How wonderful to remember that each and every one of us is love, and that we have experienced it and expressed it here. That God, good, call it whatever you need to call it, because it needs no name, because it's all names, seen and unseen. And this divine nature, this incredible creative process said, I have a glorious idea. And it allowed each and every one of our names to be on it, to be stamped with that beautiful, beautiful stamp of approval. That there is not a place, there is not a thought and action that takes place that isn't divinely guided. And I accept that gift of law, knowing that it has been given with love as love. As law. So I know that love leads our way from this moment forward, and the law will make it so from the highest place even imaginable. And then when it gets to that highest place, it even goes higher. And so with that, I am so grateful for the courage, for the coming together of this incredible power, separate perhaps in view, but in reality, all from one source. That is how connected each and every one of us is. And with that, I am so grateful for it all, as together we affirm. And so it is.